It is Friday once again, and this week has been all about preparing for 10th with a bunch of the index stuff dropping, but there seems to be a little bit in terms of growing pains as we move from 9th to 10th, and some definite issues of consistency and possibly even quality. Just as a quick reminder, you could have seen this 24 hours early. In fact, pretty much any video I do, you'll be able to see 24 hours early if you become a YouTube member or a patron. It's totally up to you, but I'm going to remind you every now and again, just in case you forget. Now, we have an absolute wealth of information from quite a lot of index cards. There's been a load of them dropped, not all of them, but a good chunk, and we're well on our way to being able to actually play 10th with all the stuff what we need, which, frankly, I'm really looking forward to. I fell off 9th quite badly. I just found it a little bit much at times, but this massive change and this huge shift in terms of the way information is presented and just the changes they've made to 40k in general in the move from 9th to 10th definitely seems to be having a slight impact on just the consistency, the quality. Now the thing is, the quality can be changed and improved, and one of the nice things about this index business that we have currently is that it's all free. So I'm not getting massively sulky about stuff that is blatantly incorrect because they can correct it nice and quickly. It's just free PDFs at this point, and so if they need to make changes, then they can make changes and we can get them quickly and easily. The fact that they're free also makes a massive difference. Now, if I was buying these cards and there were issues like 4 rhinos having firing decks and 4 rhinos not having firing decks, even though it's all the same rhino, I might get a little bit annoyed. So, just for the context of that one, right now the Death Guard, Space Marines, Grey Knights and Sisters of Battle all have firing decks on their rhinos. So, people inside the vehicle can shoot from the vehicle. Unfortunately, the Chaos Rhino, the Thousand Suns Rhino, the World Eaters Rhino, and the Anathema Psychana Rhino do not have that. It's a weird choice, because I don't think it's a choice, because it's the same vehicle every single time. There's nothing really special going on, they're just rhinos, and yet there is a big inconsistency in that roughly half of them don't have a feature that the other half do have, and I would suggest it's something of a core feature for that vehicle. There's also fun issues surrounding dreadnoughts, for instance. So the newer dreadnoughts, the Redemptor, the Ballistus and the Brutalis, they do not have the dreadnought keyword. Now, from what I've seen, that's to differentiate them from the older style of dreadnoughts, your box-naught style dreadnoughts, which should have the dreadnought keyword. And indeed, if you look at the Space Wolves index cards, then you'll notice that you've got things like the Wolfen Dreadnought, which has the keyword Dreadnought, just Dreadnought. But they also have Venerable Dreadnoughts, which also have the keyword Dreadnought. If you look at the Blood Angels, they have their own Dreadnoughts that we all love. I love a bit of Death Company Dreadnought myself, but they have a slight issue in that they do not have an individual Dreadnought keyword. Now, that's kind of important because the Storm Raven can transport Dreadnoughts. But the key thing is that it transports things with the single keyword Dreadnought, and none of the Blood Angels ones has that single keyword. They've got Librarian Dreadnought, or they've got Death Company Dreadnought, or they've got Furiosa Dreadnought. And technically the Storm Raven can't pick those up and carry them because they don't have that one singular keyword needed. Again, it's a very inconsistent thing that is almost entirely down to human error. This isn't stuff that they've planned, I wouldn't have thought. I don't think they'll suddenly decide that the Blood Angels are simply not allowed to transport their dreadnoughts via Storm Raven when other factions can. That seems a little bit weird, a little bit strange, but it is something that is definitely a bit of an issue. And I would argue that if you're buying the cards for ease of reference and you find that that is omitted from them, that's something that you'd be a little bit upset about. There's also issues with, some hunter killers having the correct value and other ones having a slightly better value. There's just lots of little things here and there, little typos, little omissions, little rules that should be on there that actually are not. Now, as I say, this isn't actually a massive complaint on my part. If I'm going to complain about anything, it will be things like terrain rules after Mikey from Hellstorm completely ruined my dream of having 3 Baneblades on the battlefield because they wouldn't really be able to shoot anything, which is super sad. But you know what? I'm going to chase that dream anyway because you can't give up on your dreams. I'm not too bothered about the fact that there are these issues because Currently, this is a free thing that they are providing to allow us to play the game, and you're not having to shell out for information that is incorrect. And it's also easy to update, and it's easy to push out those updates and make it so that you can get the correct information quickly and easily. What it is doing, more than ever before, is reinforcing my core belief that the central rules should be free, the faction rules should be free, they should be primarily digital, and they should just scrap trying to write all this stuff down and sell things like quick reference cards. Because the point of a quick reference card is that it's got everything you need right there, you don't need to think about anything else, you've just got the stuff you want, you pick it up, you look at it, you're good to go. That's completely worthless if the rules on the card are totally wrong, which just reinforces my belief that at this point, 40k is just too big, it's too complicated to keep selling rules that become outdated too quickly to really conscionably be able to buy what they're selling. And again, we've talked about this before, where it's not even a case of me going, no codexes, get rid of the books, we don't need any of that. No. I want to see codexes just as big as they are now, but with more background information, with more lore, with more cool stories, with more painting guides, with more examples of people's armies that they've come up with, not just studio armies. I would love it if codexes had actual homebrewed stuff in them that they've got from the community, paid the person who's done it to use their work in their codexes. That would be perfection for me. A codex that's the same size, that is just full of brilliant information about that faction and a ton of inspiring work by multiple people, and then you go onto the app or whatever, hopefully an app that works, and you look at the rules and they are completely detached, they are completely free, they are also updated regularly, and you don't have to worry about printing anything out to take it with you that might be wrong, or any corrections to something that you've bought that should have lasted maybe a few weeks and it actually did. Oh, last week we talked about starting the whole 9 Dreadnought army and how that might work out. Interestingly, the Redemptor does not have the Dreadnought keyword because it's supposed to be separate. Neither does the Ballistus because it's supposed to be separate. Hilariously, the Brutalis currently does have the Dreadnought keyword, so you could pick that up in a Stormraven, which I would love to see that. It shouldn't have that. It's gonna get removed, but I'd like to see it. I have to admit, a little part of these issues with the index information that we've been given and all of this stuff that's come out, a little part of me does feel like there's a lack of preparation going on. It sort of, in a way, feels a little bit rushed, which I don't know is entirely fair, because I doubt it has been rushed. I'm sure they've been working on this for months and months and months and just a long time. They'll have had this in the works for years, basically. And so it shouldn't feel rushed when you look at it. You shouldn't look at it and think, well, how did they miss all of that? How did they miss all of that? But at the same time, it's hard not to feel that straight away, because it's a case of, okay, you're trying to rebuild this game from the ground up. 10th edition is supposed to be simplified, not simple, as they keep saying, and they've actually come up with a nice system to be able to just easily reference everything you need, which is great, and I wholeheartedly approve, but there's always a little part of you that's like, a little part of me, that when I see issues like that, I'm like, oh, it feels like someone did not have the time they needed to do this, and they should have been able to give the people that time, you know? Also, comparatively speaking, the number of people who are making these index cards is obviously vastly outnumbered by the number of people who are now reading them. There is no way that they're going to have enough proofreaders to go through absolutely everything that they're doing. Arguably, they should. A company of their size that makes as much money as they do could surely invest in a few more proofreaders, perhaps. But then again, there's nothing quite like releasing something to the internet if you want to find out just how many flaws there are in an incredibly short amount of time. Now, we've already covered the new Deathleaper. We talked about that on stream on Monday, and we also cut that, I cut that bit out of the stream and released it as its own video. Thought that would be a sensible thing to do, just in case people didn't want to see the entire 2 hours of rambling to get to the model reveal. And I overall really liked it. Overall, I really liked it, but there were little bits of it that I wasn't 100% sure about, and weirdly, I didn't expect there to be as much disagreement as there was. Even for me. I'm used to people disagreeing with me, it's fine. The point of this channel is not for me to tell you what to think, it's just to talk about the stuff that we like, and so when people disagree, that's absolutely fine, no problem with it. You've changed my mind. You've actually successfully changed my mind when it comes to the Deathleaper, okay? This is the lad himself, and I was not 100% convinced about the flesh cloak, the cape, the bit down the back of him there, because initially I really liked it from the front, but then as we looked at it from other angles, I just wasn't sure about the structure of it. I wasn't sure I liked the kind of, just the style of it from the back. it just didn't seem to fit well for me when I was looking at it on Monday. The thing is, since then, a whole bunch of you have pointed out something that I somehow totally missed, right? Despite referencing the old Deathleaper and the very Cthulhu-esque face that it has, I did not make the same connections as I have from the old Deathleaper with the new one. Something that came up multiple times in the comments were people going, I can't believe you've missed the fact that it's basically a squid thing. It's a squid octopus thing. It's like the membrane that some species, like the vampire squid I think it was, have between their tentacles. That's what it is. That's the inspiration for it. And you know what? Somehow I had totally missed that. You are completely correct. I just didn't twig. I didn't put two and two together. Instead, I was looking at it totally in isolation, not really connecting it to anything outside of just, okay, well, it looks a bit weird. I wasn't really analysing it in respect to what actual nature things have. What was that sentence? What was that sentence? I don't even know what I just said. I'm going to have to look at it again while editing and probably spell it out. It was terrible. Anyway, despite the evolutionary nature of the Tyranids and the way that they design and develop new forms and the way those new forms are brought into existence, I just didn't even think about what it could be inspired by. And after a good number of you calling out blasphemy and hatred for not liking the cape and thinking that it's worth getting rid of the cape or cutting into the cape or butchering the cape in some way, I've got to concede that now that I've been shown pictures of what this is most likely based off, it's grown on me to a massive degree. The entire basis of that video, the entire basis of that critique on Monday was that I really like it, but it's not perfect. And you know what? I'm actually now disagreeing with my own, opinion of this thing. And I think I'm back to just putting it as 10 out of 10 again. I think I'm back to doing that. I think that's what it is. Towards the end of looking at this thing, I was like, okay, I really like it in spite of the cape. I really like it despite not being a big fan of what they've actually done with it. And now, thanks to you lot, I just like it for what it is. Now, admittedly, I have to concede I'm still not a big fan of the tentacle coming out of the back of the head, but you know what? That is something that would be easily fixed if you wanted to do something with it. The actual cape itself, though, the weird squid membrane, the vampire squid-looking bit, I'm 100% okay with, and I still think that this has got one of the most imposing, most threatening front and side profiles that Games Workshop has ever done. Seriously, that thing from the front is absolutely terrifying. It is borderline incomprehensible. It is full-on alien horror show nightmare territory, and I love it for that, and I loved the front view anyway. The only thing that let it down was turning the lad around and not being convinced of the cape that I liked so much from the front. But actually, now, it's all good. So there you go. You've done it. You've convinced me. Don't think it's going to happen every time, because it's not. Because I will be stubborn for no reason. That's not true. I'm not going to be stubborn for no reason. If it's something that actually makes sense and makes me think, oh yeah, no, you're right, then chances are I'll end up changing my mind. But that's good, because you should change your mind if you find things that convince you otherwise. And having now come round to the idea of that aspect of this model, I'm super excited to see what else they show off for Tyranids. I'm kind of looking forward to the Space Marine reveals a bit. Okay, cool. But more Space Marines is more Space Marines. More Tyranids is what I want to see, and I'm genuinely excited to see what they come up with, because if there's more stuff like the Deathleaper, that's going to make them very, very, very tempting indeed. And frankly, I don't need much pushing to make an excuse to have some sort of horrible, gribbly, giant monster-based Tyranid army. It's probably going to happen. Thank you for joining me for another Friday show. As I said at the start, if you are a member on YouTube or a patron, you'll have been able to see this 24 hours early. I'm actually toying with a few videos that will go up probably a full week in advance, if that's something that interests you. There's also an exclusive Discord server that you'll have access to as well. Just take a look if you want to. It's totally up to you. Let me know what you think of those index mistakes and the change of heart towards the Deathleaper in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. Click if you like, don't click if you don't want to. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games, which you can use to support the channel if you'd like. I'll leave it in your capable hands. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.